Hello, loom knitting friends. This tutorial is about how to make a scarf with horizontal stripes. To do this double knitting project, you'll use an easy 4-row repeat of the stockinette stitch. Today we're going to cover number 1, how to cast on, number 2, how to make stripes using the stockinette stitch, and number 3, how to bind off. For the supplies, you'll need a long rectangular knitting loom. This one is from Michaels. You'll need 2 balls of yarn. I used leftover yarn from the brand Estelle Bulky, but you can use other yarn. You'll need a hook, a pair of scissors, and a yarn needle. And if you want, you can use something to mark your loom. Before we cast on, let's go over some reference points. I'll be referring to this top row of pegs as the A pegs, and this bottom row of pegs are the B pegs. We'll be using 12 pegs for this project, and you can mark them if you wish. Let's start our figure 8 cast on by making a slip knot and putting it on the anchor peg. Now wrap peg 1A counterclockwise, then 1B clockwise to make a figure 8. Then keep making figure 8s like this towards the right side of the loom. After I wrap 12A, I'm pulling the yarn towards me and I'm pushing the figure 8s down. Wrap 12B, then wrap 12A again. Let's retrace our steps and make new figure 8s right over top of the old figure 8s. We're now at the left side of the loom. Wrap 1B, then wrap 1A, then knit over the bottom loop of that same peg to secure it. Knit over all of the bottom loops of those A pegs. Now knit over all of the bottom loops of the B pegs. Go from 11B to 1B. Wonderful! Now the next step is to tighten our cast on. We'll pull up on these bumps between the A pegs and the B pegs. Pull up on the bump below 12A. Then go to the bump above 11B. And then the bump below 11A. Keep pulling up on these bumps until you're at the left side of the loom. The last bump to pull upwards is above 1B. Let's hold the extra yarn in our right hand and put the slip knot in our left hand. we pull the slip knot towards the left all the way, and we make sure that no loops fall off the loom. Tie a knot with the working yarn and the slip knot yarn. Lay that yarn across the loom. Push everything down, and now your cast on is done. In terms of the colors for my scarf, the cast on was in pink, rows 1 and 2 will be in gray, and then rows 3 and 4 will be in pink. Let's make our first stripe by making a slip knot with the gray yarn and putting it on the anchor peg. Leave a tail of at least 8 inches, if not longer. Next, we'll do the stockinette stitch. Wrap 1B, 2A, 3B, 4A, and continue like this. Wrap 12A, 12B. Now let's work our way to the left, and we'll wrap all of the pegs that we missed. Wrap peg 1A, then knit over 6 bottom loops. We want to stop knitting over in the middle. Tilt the loom and start knitting over from 1B. Again, just do 6 pegs. Tilt the loom again and knit over from 12A. Now knit over from 12B. Let's notice that the loops on the pegs are gray and the bumps in the middle are pink. This means that row 1 is done. Now it's time for row 2. We'll continue with the gray yarn and we'll do the stockinette stitch again. Wrap 1B, 2A, 3B, and so on. Now we're heading back to the left, wrapping all of the pegs that we had missed. One A is the last peg that we'll wrap, and then we knit over. We're knitting from the outside towards the inside because I think that makes the edges a bit more even. Knit over from 1B, knit over from 12A, and knit over from 12B. Let's push everything down, and now row 2 is done. Let's notice that the loops on the pegs are in gray, and the bumps are also gray. Taking note of these colors means you won't have to use a row counter or a pen and paper to keep track of the row you're on. Row 3 is in pink, so we'll do the stockinette stitch again. As usual, we'll start at peg 1B. Now we'll work towards the left. Wrap peg 1A and then knit over. And now things are going to change. Tilt the loom and knit over on 12B. Knit over on about 6 pegs. Tilt the loom and start knitting over from 12A. Here I only did 5 pegs, but I meant to do 6, but that's okay. The point is to stop knitting over around the middle. Now knit over from 1B. And lastly, tilt the loom and knit over on any pegs that still have 2 loops on them. Push down your work, and now row 3 is done. Notice that the pegs are pink and the bumps are gray. That's how you know that you've completed row 3. Let me untangle my yarn and we'll do row 4, and we'll continue to use pink. As usual, let's start by wrapping peg 1B. We'll use the stockinette stitch just like the other rows. Nothing new here. Now let's wrap towards the left. Knit over on 1A, then knit over from 12B. Now let's knit over from 12A. Next, we'll knit over from 1B. Finally, we'll knit over from 2A. Push down your work, and row 4 is done. You'll notice that the pegs are in pink, and the bumps are in pink too. That confirms that we've completed row 4. Now let's remove the gray yarn from the anchor peg and put it down below. Since we've just finished the 4-row repeat, let's move on to row 5, which is just like row 1. I'm leaving the pink yarn alone. I'm not twisting it with the gray yarn. I'll let you complete row 5 without me talking you through it. I'm starting row 6, and I'm not twisting the pink and gray yarn together. I don't want to carry the old yarn up the side of the scarf, but that's a personal choice. On your own, you'll continue the 4-row repeat. Keep knitting until you finish 2 rows of gray. That's because our bind off will be in pink. So at this point, my scarf looks very plush and beautiful in these muted colors. My scarf is 46 inches or 116 centimeters, which is not long, but it's okay with me since I really wanted to use up my leftover yarn. What we're going to do next is do a row in pink, and we'll wrap with our usual tension. Let's knit over now. Now let's wrap our pegs in pink again, but this time let's wrap our pegs more loosely than usual. Excellent! Now let's take the loop from 12B and put it on 12A. On 12A, dive in with your hook to pull up the bottom loop. Put that loop on 11B. Dive in with your hook on 11B. Grab the bottom loop and put that loop on 11A. Now dive in with your hook on 11A and scoop up that bottom loop and put it on 10B. Now keep binding off just like this as you work towards the left of the loom. Since your last row was wrapped a bit more loosely than usual, the width of your bind off should be just right. Here I'm on 1B, I'm scooping up the bottom loop and putting it on 1A. Let's cut the pink yarn now, and we'll leave a generous tail. Now on peg 1, dive in with your hook and pull up that bottom loop. Pull that yarn all the way out. Now the bind off is done and your project is off the loom. Let's look at how great it looks. Here I'm just stretching out the stitches, and then I'm going to weave in the ends. Here I'm at the cast on edge. I'm putting the gray yarn on my yarn needle, and I'm trying to hide this tail inside the gray row. Now I've poked the gray yarn through the width of the scarf, and I'm going to bring it back in the opposite direction and then snip off the end. Now I'm going to let you weave in any remaining tails on your own. I do hope you got something out of this video and that it helps you with one of your projects. Thank you so much for watching my channel. See you in the next video.